Russia stands among the world's three biggest exporters of oil, right alongside the United States and Saudi Arabia. And according to the U.S. Department of Energy, in 2024, Russia alone supplied nearly 10% of the world's total oil. Yet despite a wave of international sanctions, some of the harshest of our time, the flow of Russian oil has not stopped. It hasn't even slowed the way many expected. So the question is unavoidable. How is Russia still keeping its oil trade alive? And even more intriguing, why does Moscow continue to claim that the sanctions placed by President Donald Trump on two of Russia's biggest oil giants have had almost no real impact? The answer leads into a darker, more hidden world, a world built on secrecy, profit, and ships that should not exist. Because behind the scenes, there is a shadowy maritime network, a covert fleet often described as ghost tankers or zombie ships, vessels that switch off their trackers, sail under false identities, and quietly move millions of barrels of oil across oceans without being seen. But secrecy alone doesn't explain everything. There's another force at work, a force as old as trade itself: profit. From powerful figures inside Iran to Venezuelan military elites to Western businessmen who prioritize money over morality, many are willing to buy Russian oil in silence. For them, environmental risks and the safety of tanker crews trapped at sea for months matter far less than the profit in their pockets. That is our story for today. Stay with us. This is USMag. Since Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, the activity of Moscow's shadow fleet has increased dramatically. This hidden network of vessels has become a lifeline for the Kremlin, allowing it not only to continue exporting vast quantities of oil, but also to generate the revenue needed to fund its war effort. According to President Donald Trump, the role of this secretive fleet goes beyond transporting oil. He claims Russia is also using these ships to carry out covert intelligence operations and acts of sabotage against NATO countries in Europe, including the deliberate damaging of underwater communication cables and critical energy pipelines. Analysts at S&P Global estimate that, among the companies ensuring nearly 90% of global maritime trade, 4 out of every 5 tankers carrying Russian oil are operating without insurance. They also believe that, despite Western sanctions, this covert fleet is responsible for delivering up to 80% of Russia's oil exports to foreign buyers. Before the war in Ukraine, Russia depended almost entirely on Western-operated tankers for its maritime exports. Most of these vessels were Greek-owned, managed from Switzerland, with insurance underwritten in London. But as sanctions tightened, Moscow found a way around them. Benjamin Hilgenstock, a senior economist at the Kiev School of Economics, notes that Russia essentially built its own ghost fleet to bypass restrictions and keep oil flowing. Many of the ships in this fleet are old and poorly maintained, raising serious concerns about safety and environmental risk, including the possibility that they lack sufficient insurance to cover oil spills. Another factor, roughly 3/4 of Russia's oil exports depart from ports along the Baltic and Black Seas, which means these vessels pass through European waters multiple times a day, increasing the risk of accidents or leaks. S&P Global further estimates that 1 in every 5 tankers at sea today is part of this covert Russian-linked network, engaged in off-the-radar oil shipments. Approximately half of these vessels carry Russian crude and refined products, around 20% transport Iranian oil, and roughly 10% carry Venezuelan oil. The remaining 20% operate as independent carriers, moving oil from a variety of sanctioned nations. The largest share of these clandestine shipments, including oil from Russia, Iran, and Venezuela, is headed toward India and China, 2 of the most populous nations in the world, and among the largest consumers of imported seaborne oil. According to industry analysts, other notable buyers of Russian oil include Turkey, Singapore, and the United Arab Emirates. How does this secret fleet hide its identity? According to data from the maritime analytics company Windward, this covert network includes roughly 1,300 vessels. And in the first 8 months of this year alone, the number of ships adopting false identities exceeded 65%. Many of these vessels conceal their information by becoming what experts call ghost ships, changing their registration flags, or even sailing without any flag at all. Some ships go further, changing their names multiple times within the same month. Certain vessels operate as zombie ships, broadcasting a unique International Maritime Organization registration number, typically reserved for ships that have been decommissioned. It is almost as if they assume the identity of someone who has passed away. Other ships transfer oil from one vessel to another while at sea, beyond the watchful eyes of port authorities. This is often done during adverse weather, making it nearly impossible to track the cargo being moved. In addition, many ships turn off their automatic identification system, or AIS, which normally broadcasts their position, speed, course, name, and vessel type. Some manipulate this data so drastically that it appears as if the ship is traveling on land rather than the ocean. While some of these ships are operating legally, there has been a significant rise in flag registration fraud. Many countries issuing these flags are doing so for the first time, and they often lack the ability to monitor every registration effectively. Benjamin Hilgenstock explains that it is ultimately the responsibility of the flag-issuing nation to ensure that technical regulations are followed, and that insurance is adequate to cover potential oil leaks, suspicious drones, espionage, and looming threats. Russian officials have repeatedly stated that any action against oil tankers carrying Russian crude is considered an attack on their country. In May of this year, when Estonia tried to intercept an oil tanker, a Russian fighter jet appeared nearby, circling the vessel, a clear demonstration of force. In October 2025, the French Navy stopped a ship, and it was discovered that the vessel was carrying 750,000 barrels of oil from a terminal near St. Petersburg, destined for India. The tanker, registered under the Benin flag, is suspected of being connected to mysterious drones that had previously forced airports in Denmark to close. The vessel, now called Boracay, had recently changed its name from Pushpa. Before that, it sailed as Odysseus, the Verona, and the Koala, changing its flag a total of 7 times. The ship was detained off the coast of France, and according to the country's public prosecutor, the crew refused to cooperate and were unable to clarify the vessel's nationality. Russian drones have also been spotted over NATO allies' airspace, including Sweden, Norway, and Germany. On November 6th, Brussels airport had to be temporarily closed because of drones in the area. These drones were even observed near military bases. Russia has denied all accusations of hybrid warfare against Ukraine's allies. Following the investigation into this vessel, NATO countries launched a coordinated mission. Secretary General Mark Rutte stated that ship captains must understand that any potential threat to critical infrastructure carries serious consequences, including the detention or seizure of vessels. The United Kingdom, Denmark, Sweden, and Poland have confirmed they are reviewing maritime insurance documents for ships operating across multiple seas. Meanwhile, Estonia, Finland, Germany, Iceland, Latvia, Lithuania, the Netherlands, and Norway have agreed to collaborate against the covert Russian fleet, citing multiple incidents in their waters where undersea cables and infrastructure were damaged. However, ships belonging to this secretive fleet can only be legally intercepted in port or within a country's territorial waters, a limited zone extending just 12 nautical miles from the coastline. Intercepting these vessels in international waters remains extremely difficult because the Western world strongly upholds freedom of navigation. According to international maritime law, a nation may only stop a vessel if there is a credible threat to its security. Most shipping companies retire oil tankers after about 15 years. By 25 years, these vessels are usually dismantled and scrapped. Yet, the tankers operating within Russia's secret fleet are rarely, if ever, sent for scrapping. In December 2024, Russian authorities faced a serious environmental crisis when 5,000 barrels of oil leaked from 2 tankers over 50 years old. A senior Russian scientist described this as the 21st century's largest environmental shock. Viktor Danilov, head of the Russian Academy of Sciences, told a local newspaper that this was the first time fuel had leaked in such enormous quantities. Meanwhile, some front companies, backed by Russian oil interests, deliberately purchase vessels nearing the end of their operational life. This discourages investment in newer, safer tankers. These old ships are then sold and resold among unknown or newly registered companies, creating a chain designed to avoid accountability. These tankers are often defective, poorly maintained, and carry malfunctioning or turned-off transponders, increasing the risk of collisions with other vessels at sea. Despite these dangers, this operation is extremely profitable. a 15-year-old USMag tanker can be purchased for around $40 million. According to S&P Global, transporting Russian oil from the Black Sea to India in a single month can earn the ship's owner more than $500,000. While the secret owners profit, the world bears the risks. Without proper insurance, any accident or oil spill would have consequences for others, not the owners of these ships. It is likely that whenever sanctions are lifted, this shadow fleet will continue operating, and its reach may expand even further. According to Lloyd's List, another similar fleet is already emerging. One example is the Chinese container ship Hanying 9, frequently spotted near Ukraine under Russian influence. The question remains, how much longer can this operate unchecked? And what will the environmental and geopolitical cost be in the years to come? If you found this story insightful, make sure to subscribe to USMag, share this video with friends who want to understand the hidden global risks, and leave a comment below with your thoughts on the secret fleets and their impact.